Their business acumen is staggering. Their wealth is subject of envy. But behind the money, the notoriety, and the often unwanted attention is a sense of purpose, to help those in need, to build a legacy to be proud of. This is a series that delves into the lives of those who give. This is The Philanthropists. Hi everybody, I'm Ralph Ben-Murgy. Welcome to The Philanthropists, our ongoing series about people who give. Today we're going to Vancouver to talk to lawyer and philanthropist Bernard Pinsky. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here. I always like to ask people about how they orient themselves to giving, because there's a kind of a human nature thing of, if I give, I have less. So for you in your life, what were the signals that you got that it was better to give than to get?
My story currently is different than the usual story. I have been involved with philanthropy for over 40 years, and giving was very important to me all those years, and I would try to the best of my ability to support those organizations and charities that I was involved with or knew about or thought were doing a very good job. But as an individual, for me, as I was a professional, I was making a very good living, so I felt I could give away about 10% of my income to charity. It saved some taxes. I really believed in those things, and many times I was involved in those organizations. But I probably am here for a different reason, and that is that I am now the chair of a charitable foundation. And so it's not my money, but it is money that I feel a sacred trust to give away efficiently and effectively and actually repair the world with it. And so part of our foundation's plan is to help organizations make transformative changes. That's right into our plan. I know that a lot of people want to do that, but we actually put a lot of thought and effort into it to try to help organizations take them from a level where they're doing something to where they can do it much better, or many more people served, or something that hasn't been tried before might work. And if it can work and can be scaled, then we can really make a difference in the world. So my personal life is one aspect of it, where I'm no longer a lawyer, which I was for over 40 years, and giving my own money. And I did so every year and willingly and with great interest and passion, but I wasn't moving the needle on anything. But now, as chair of a sizable foundation, we feel that we have the opportunity to move the needle.
So tell me more about that idea of individual giving, which you did for decades, and when you started to realize, or when you realized, you know what, I think that it'd be better if I did this with a group of people and a larger stash of cash, as it were. So how did you get there? Because individual giving for a lot of people is very satisfying. So how did you move your needle from one to the other?
Yes, it was satisfying for me to be giving, and yet the needs are so great that that I was always thinking, I'm going to give to the best of my ability, but this doesn't really change the organization. It helps them with their operations. It keeps them going, and I would say my list was about 20 to 25 charities every year, and sometimes it would be because someone asked me that I know, and I felt that if they felt strongly about it, I would support them, friends or others that I respected very greatly. Sometimes it was something that I believed in strongly. If that was the case, I would often be involved with those organizations. Both my wife and I are consummate volunteers, and it's not like I didn't have a busy life before. I mean, I was a corporate and securities lawyer and can keep long hours, but I basically trained my clients not to expect me to call them back at night. And when I go home, I'd have dinner with my wife and children, and they would go to, when my children were little, they would go to bed at 8 o'clock or whatever, and I would go out to my meetings. And I would have 3 or 4 meetings a week, and I'd be on boards. I was a fundraiser for several different organizations, and I would pull out my cards and I would start calling people and perhaps meeting them, and I would take them for lunch and explain to them the organizations that I was passionate about and felt that needed support. And I was pretty successful at it. But I'm now doing it as well as a full-time occupation. I wouldn't say a job because I'm a volunteer to doing it. But I'm able to take what I was doing and find a new way at a different level of giving.
What's the name of the foundation?
It's the Ronald S. Roadburg Foundation.
Right. And it's now, I think, the second biggest in Canada for Jewish causes and things like that.
That may be true. I don't know. I haven't checked all the ones, but I do know at least one that's bigger. But in terms of our assets, yeah, it's a substantial foundation, and that foundation, again, not our money, but I'm basically dedicating my life to making sure that the assets that are in that foundation are used in a way that is going to make the world a better place, repair the world. And as I said before, I mean, when it was entrusted to me, the first thing I thought that it seems like a lot of money, but every penny is really sacred money. Sacred in the sense that I made a promise to the person who passed that the money is going to go to charity and it's going to be well spent. And so I'm very conscientious and concerned about everything we spend that doesn't go to charitable purposes. And of course, there are expenses that a foundation always has. And yet, I'm looking at it very carefully to ensure that what we spend is absolutely necessary, and where we put our money and invest with organizations, that it's going to be put to great use.
So how do you find your passion points for giving? How do you find the things that make you light up when you're talked about and think, I got to do that, I got to help with that? What's your criteria or your motivation?
Wow. Well, I haven't said this out loud before, but I think I've got a very soft heart. And people come and talk to me about their needs. And I listen and I really want to give them. But I know that no matter what we have, there's a limitation on what we can do. No matter, even Bill Gates's foundation can't solve all the problems of the world, and we're nothing like Bill Gates's foundation. So we need to pick our spots. And so while I may be very interested in what somebody's doing and saying and what some good that they're doing, mostly we think about a few areas that we really want to make a difference if we can, and then try to keep the major funding that we have in those areas, and other things we might give something small, we might not. We're not giving for operations, like an annual operations campaign. No, that's not something we're going to donate to. We will donate to someone who says, in order for us to expand or to be able to service this area very, very well, we need to invest and rebuild. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to survive for very much longer. That kind of question. For example, a camp, most that we are supporting, most of their buildings were built in the 40s and 50s, 1940s and 1950s. They're not going to be able to survive unless they rebuild. And so we don't just say, here's some money to build a building. We say, okay, what's your plan? How do you rebuild this whole camp over a period of time? What comes first? What comes second? What is the long range plan to expand your camp? What is your dream of getting to a larger number?
Right. So it's kind of like, it's like big heart, but feet on the ground.
Okay, that's one way of saying it. And as I say, I've never used the word, soft heart or big heart before, but I do know how I react to different proposals and things that we're looking at, and usually, something in here says you should do this, but something up here says, okay, how does it fit in with what we're trying to accomplish, and does it fit into our budget, etc., for this year?
So where do Jewish values fit into all this? How do you make sure those things are involved?
Yeah. So I guess my values are intermixed with some of the things that I talked with the person who passed, whose estate went into the foundation. And when we talked about it, he asked me what I would do, and one of the things I said I would do with his money was to tackle some serious problems that society faces, which are very difficult to solve. And we try to figure out a way to make a difference in those areas. And several things I had in mind, not all the things I had in mind, but one of the things I had in mind was addictions, trying to deal with drug addiction. And man, that's a huge area. Another thing that I said that I would do, discussing with the person whose estate we have, is helping vulnerable populations, securing them, assisting them to strengthen. That includes in Canada Indigenous populations, but it includes around the world others who are maybe disadvantaged or discriminated against, or have had a history which has been difficult, and they can't really get out of their situations. So we're looking at projects that help those types of people. I'm personally less attracted by things that are just elevating a level for people who already have it pretty good. I'm more drawn to support people who really are in very dire straits.
It must be tough sometimes when you see someone or an organization that is serving something that has great need, but on the other hand, they don't have a plan. Do you help them make a plan, or do they have to kind of show up with having it together?
So if it's in an area, for example, addictions, the easiest thing, if they're serving those people, but they don't have a plan, it's difficult for us to jump in, because it's more of the same, and it doesn't elevate new people, doesn't give us ability to scope. Having said that, what we're doing is, when we do have somebody who is in that same area of service and they have a plan, there are times when we can put those organizations together so that the organization that has a plan we might invest in, but say, here are other people who are doing the same thing as you are. How do you get them involved? How do you connect? One of the things we're best at adding value at and we've got a CEO who's just great at it, he's always thinking about who to connect, is trying to connect people and organizations that might benefit from each other.
You know, it's funny, eh? Like you had a whole career, you gave individually, you did great, and now it's like, I actually imagine that you get out of bed excited, that you think, you know what, this is really cool. I'm having a good time.
I am so pumped every day. I'm really very excited. No, seriously, I'm at the age of normally lawyers retire. I mean, lawyers don't necessarily retire, so they just lose their appeal. But they're I would have gone on as a lawyer, even though I'm over 65, because I was, I'm still vibrant, still have my clients, I had everything, and I just quit. And I said, I can't do the kind of work that I want to do on the philanthropic side unless I'm doing it full time. And so about a year and a half ago, I stopped. I gave away all my clients to my firm, and I placed them in different places, and I had to hire a lawyer in my firm to take over some of my clients. But I quit, and I said, I'm going full time to do philanthropy. And yes, it's kind of a dream retirement. It's not a retirement because I'm working full time, but it's gratifying. In some ways, it's like work. It's like a job, because not every minute do we find that something has worked well and that we're high about that. But so I'm working. I'm dealing with money management and property management and other things. And there's lots of discussions, and things don't always go the way we expect them to go. So it's kind of like a job in that respect. And yet, every relatively short while, something comes together, and we make a gift, and they start producing, and they start doing things that are going to change people's lives. And when we see that, then it's really, really exciting. And it comes pretty often. There are 4 buildings, for example, in Israel that are all going to come into being built at around the same time of January to March 2025, and they're going to have the Ronald S. Roadburg name on them.
Well, it beats, packing it up at the firm and getting onto the golf course. You're definitely doing something better than that.
It does beat it. For me, I'm really, I used to play bridge. I'm not doing that anymore. I think, look, I want to keep myself physically fit and mentally fit for sure. But I never watched much TV because I wouldn't have been able to go out and do all the charitable board meetings that I did. I've always been passionate about the causes that I got involved with. And now I'm still as passionate, only it's even more fun and more interesting and more impactful than ever before, because we can make a difference in a serious way.
Well, I thank you for what you're doing. I think it's great. And, they say tikkun olam, but sometimes when you're repairing the world, you get a little bit of tikkun hanefesh. You repair your own soul. So it's a pretty good thing. That's
a great point. That's a great point. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's great for me, for sure.
Thank you for what you're doing. I really mean that. It's a wonderful thing. You take care of yourself.
Okay, thanks. Nice to talk to you.
You too.